Well, hi, and welcome back. On this week's podcast episode, I have with me a special guest and friend, technically, of mine, Olivia St. Clair Long. Olivia is our first managing partner who's ever been on the podcast and or the YouTube channel. So welcome, Olivia.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So the reason why I wanted Olivia to come speak with us today is I've known Olivia now for a few years, and a little kind of secret, maybe some people don't know, is a few years ago, I started talking with Olivia about doing a joint project together. And it was based on her feedback after putting her paralegals and law clerks through my litigation boot camp, my litigation paralegal boot camp. And so she had reached out to me and said that it was so valuable to her firm, to the law clerks, and she wondered, why don't you make this for associates? And I explained that a lot of associates, just attorneys in general, don't necessarily want to be trained by a former paralegal manager, whether we like it or not. They don't always like that. And so I would really need an attorney to do the course with me if it was going to be geared towards associates. And that's where Olivia and I's little joint venture began. So we have a litigator launchpad course that's based on my litigation paralegal boot camp. And we just launched it. How long has it been now, Olivia?
July 17th.
You remember the exact date. So litigatorlaunchpad.com, if you're an associate listening, or if you're a paralegal listening and you know that maybe some of your associates could use some training, you might want to go over there and check that out. But so today I invited Olivia because she is the managing partner of her firm in Illinois. And because of her input on the course and how the training related to both associates and paralegals, I thought Olivia would be the perfect person to come talk to us about what does a managing partner, a senior attorney in a firm look for in traits that would make a really good paralegal and a really good associate. Are there similarities? Are there things that paralegals that you look for in your paralegals that you also look for in your associates?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's been so much fun working on the other course, also because I get to see how wonderful Paralegal Bootcamp continues to be and how it continues to benefit the folks in my firm. And, when we were working on it, really took several of the skill-oriented modules and essentially used them unchanged in the associate version of your training course, right, in Litigator Launchpad. And that is because all of these skills are so incredibly important and so transferable between those two important jobs, a paralegal and a younger attorney. So the skills I really feel that I look at identically for both of those roles are attention to detail, right, which we've talked about a lot, folks who really care about getting it right, folks who understand that, one word, like an order of protection and a temporary restraining order are not the same thing at all. People who have the desire and the capacity to get into the nitty-gritty and know the difference. Communication, which is huge for paralegals as well as for younger associates, because they have to both manage up and down, right? They have to manage the expectations and the deadlines coming to them from me and other partners. And they also have to manage their admin team who's helping them review, helping them proofread, compiling exhibits, making copies, right? They have to do those things timely. And then ownership, right? Taking ownership of your work, not just checking a box and saying, well, I did my section, right? Making sure that the entire assignment gets done and that you become an integral part of that. So those skills are really the things that I look at.
All right, so let's take a little bit deeper dive into each of those, because especially when I hear attention to detail, my bells start going off because I teach that. We have a module in the Litigator Launchpad on it. I have one in the Litigation Paralegal Bootcamp. I actually also teach it inside the Bill Barr Bootcamp because I saw as a paralegal manager that there was a direct correlation between the billable work that was given out by partners and the amount of mistakes that were made by whether it was the litigation associate or the paralegal. And so tell me what goes on in your mind when you start receiving, maybe it's not the first error, it's the second one, maybe it's the third, the fourth, like you're continually seeing a lack of attention to detail. What goes through your mind as a partner?
Sure. Well, I try very hard, honestly, not to take it personally. It truly feels when someone isn't proofreading their work that they feel that my time should be spent correcting them rather than their time spent giving me the best work product possible. So I know they don't mean it that way, but I definitely struggle not to take it that way. And you don't want my headspace there if you work for me, right? You don't want me to think that you don't care and that you feel wasting my time is an appropriate thing for you to do. That's not great. That's not a good place to be. So I also kind of truly because I'm not really a managing partner because I don't have partners. I'm a principal attorney, and the difference in that is I own the whole thing. My name's on all of it. I bear all of the risk. Any money we've ever gotten is with my credit. Any systems we've ever made are with my effort. So when I've created systems and done training to prevent those types of errors that I'm seeing, and then I see those errors, it is quite frustrating and difficult for me to put it in perspective that person who's given me this work is learning and, things are hard. So once I do that little brain check and put myself in perspective, I really try to reinforce my systems with folks and say, hey, so when you've done work and you don't print it out and proofread it and you don't give it to another person to proofread, and think about that, right? That means time management, right? That means communication and cooperation. When the associate attorney or paralegal doesn't take the time and effort to do that, it really does feel like okay, well, that's against our core values. Our firm is collaborative and supportive. You not taking the time to do the things that we're teaching you to do is a problem. And that's all. Proofreading mistakes say that to me.
I love that. So even though you're not in that mindset, I want to say this again for people listening, because I don't think I've ever put it that way to paralegals when I talk about attention to detail. So I'm going to repeat that for the paralegals in the room. Listen to what she said. When you give an attorney work product that you haven't taken the time to double check and triple check, then are you essentially wasting that attorney's time by giving them work and expecting that they're going to catch the errors? So I thank you for that.
And truly, I can't bill for that, right? My rate is too high to bill for proofreading and formatting. I can't do that. And so it actually is burning my time, because the other thing I have to do then is call you back in, remind you that you're supposed to give me good work, which is something I thought you knew, right? And then have a conversation. Is this because you didn't know what to do, or is it because you didn't do it? This is all a waste of my time. I can't bill any of it.
All right. So the communication, go back to the communication, because I don't think I've ever heard it that way either, is communicating up and down.
Right. This was the hardest part for me as an associate. This is very difficult, actually. It's in many ways for me easier running my own firm and not having anyone to report to or with at my level, as opposed to how hard it is as a senior paralegal or a junior associate, truly. I'm working with this now with a junior associate in my firm. She will, because the paralegal on the matter is more available than I am in her day, my junior associate will make decisions occasionally and give them to the paralegal, or ask the paralegal, who is as new as the junior associate. They've both been working there for a matter of months. They too will decide what they think is right, and they may tell me or they may not. And that's a problem, right? Because they may think that the decision that they're making is small, like, should we file it downtown like we file everything downtown? And they make that decision, and they don't tell me, not knowing that maybe there's a strategic reason I would want to file in one of the districts in my area, not downtown, because I happen to know which judge sits in family law, which I practice in each district. And so by filing in the district, I might be able to pick the judge, right? There might be a strategic reason I want to do that. So it seems small, but unless you flag for me that, hey, we're going to file this today, I don't know that you're doing that, right? So that's a moment where you're managing both up and down. And then there's the part where if somebody's new or a paralegal has the scope of their purview of a case usually is not as broad as the managing attorney on the case. I think that's fair to say, right? And so a paralegal may have a different idea of what an appropriate reaction to something is, as opposed to what a junior associate thinks, as opposed to what the senior person thinks. So, it's as easy as CCing on an email. Hey, Olivia, we're planning to do this, 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 and this. We're planning to do it by about 4 today. Do you have any other ideas or concerns that we need to address about that? Right? That kind of piece of foregoing communication is super helpful, because if I write back, nah, swing away, I know I said that. I'm not going to hold you to it later when you guys made decisions that you didn't want to run up the flagpole. And then the other part is that time management piece we talk about, right? When you want your work to be perfect and you need someone else to review it, you can't procrastinate. You can't just drop it on the paralegal and expect them to be able to say no to a whole bunch of other people's projects. In order, as the junior associate has to now have your thing proofread so that you can give it to me because I said I wanted it by 5 on Monday, right? So there's managing up and down in terms of time management skills too, which paralegals all have to deal with too, because usually they're dealing with lit support, they're dealing with vendors, they're dealing with people who are making copies and delivering them. They're making sure that the courtesy copies got done, right? They're making sure that last year our court took away all our standing orders in our division. Judges don't have standing orders anymore. Chief judge said she was going to make a standing order for the whole team, everybody. It's never gone up. So now we don't know what each judge wants. So we have a spreadsheet that we have to maintain based on how we get yelled at every day about what we do or don't do properly, according to that judge. So paralegal is a really hard job because they're the ones that have to manage that. And remember, do these people want electronic copies or paper copies? If they want paper copies, then you as a paralegal have to inform the associate who's writing the draft and probably the partner who's waiting for the draft. Hey, by the way, we need this 2 days earlier so the paper copies can get delivered. So that's managing up and down.
Yeah. And your third one, remind me, what was your third one?
Yeah, ownership of your work.
Ownership. Oh gosh, I can't believe I forgot of all things because that's so important to me.
That's being the information manager, right? That's being the project manager. That's what that is to me, right? Because there is a huge difference from my perspective in giving the assignment to someone who I know is paying the kind of attention a project manager or the information manager will pay. There's an example that you use in your courses that I love where, let's say that the paralegal becomes aware through lit support that they just got a new 5,000 document dump of documents from someone producing, right? So what you could do is try to tell the partner like, hey, I need to talk to you about this new document, scope that we have, the scope of the project, the cost of the project, the review of the project. I got to talk to you. In your example, you say they fire off an email like, hey, I got to talk to you. Partner may be caught up. They might be in trial. They might be at work, or they might be doing something else. Maybe they don't see it as necessary because they don't have the purview that you do. They don't know this just happened or they missed the email. You can't just check the box. Well, I told them, you'll have to do something about it. You got to go and say like, excuse me, I really need to be able to tell you that the scope of the project is going to change. Here's how it's going to change. Here are the potential solutions that I see, right? That's very different from, well, I understand that she told me to communicate. So I communicated. I didn't hear anything back. So guess that's not getting done. Nope. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah, I would say, because that would be the complete opposite of both the communication and the ownership. I call it like, don't go sending the CYA email and think you're done. It's just a CYA email and nobody likes those.
And everybody knows that that's what it is. You're not slick. You're not the first. Everyone has sent that email that's just like, okay, so when in my review, they say I screwed this up, I'm going to pull up a printed copy of that email. It's not the conversation you want to have in your review. Conversation you want to have in your review when they're giving you a raise and a bonus for saving the project is the one where you were strong enough and smart enough and in control and ownership of your work enough to know the importance of what you were interrupting the partner for, doing it anyway because it's correct.
One final thought I had on that I'd love to get your insight in, since I've never had a partner on the show before, is for ownership. Can a paralegal go too far? Is there too much ownership? Is there ever, I don't know, I'm just trying to think, would there be a situation where you as the attorney, you've got the communication, you know what's going on. It's not like they're filed in a district that you didn't want them filing in, but just like maybe too proactive on a case, like they're doing things that you haven't asked them to do?
There is a way to take too much ownership, and I think that I'm thinking of two different scenarios in which that could be true. One of them is what you said, which is doing stuff someone didn't tell you to do. I do think that that is a bit of a lapse of communication, right? Because the paralegal could say, just so you know, what I understand the next steps in the case are these. Those next steps would mean that I might need to start filling out this, and this to get it prepped. Or I see you have a case management conference in 60 days. The district we filed in has a very complicated case management order. Would you like me to start filling it out? Right? That's great because it shows me you know exactly what you're doing. You're super proactive. It's going to be in 60 days, right? It is a very complicated order. The one I'm thinking about is like a 5-page order. It has all the discovery deadlines. It's a whole thing. It does take a long time to do, and I would rather not do it at the last minute. But I also might not want to bill a client for that right now. I don't know, right? It's case by case. So you might let me know what you think the next steps are and what you're doing. Also, that is a very nice record for your review, right? Here's me being proactive. Here's me letting you know what the next steps are. Here's me managing the case actively so you know what's going on. I think that's the antidote to like, well, I know what's going on, but I just can't get the partner to say yes or no. Send a nice chunky email and schedule a meeting, right? To say like, hey, can we go through what we're doing next? That's one way. The other way I think that someone can be too proactive is when the ownership of the work becomes territorial. Right? So some folks have seen this where it's like, well, I worked at a firm where the managing partner's assistant would not allow other people to do certain work, and was fully supported in that by the managing partner. Like if she said this was her work, it didn't matter who was really supposed to do it. She was going to do it. Person who did not bill hours. Interesting. And then she didn't have the skill set or the education to actually manage the work from the attorneys and the paralegals. So the attorneys and the paralegals got thrown under the bus a lot when things weren't done right. It's wild, right? So a way of avoiding that, honestly, and you don't really hear this in law firms, lead with kindness, right? Like, is it a kind thing to do to tell somebody else, like, you can't ask me about that project, or this is mine, not yours? Like, that's not kind, you know? It's not collaborative. That's not team-oriented behavior. You can also say, if you're on the opposite end, right? Hey, so when you're doing that order, but I don't know you're doing it, we're duplicating work. So if you could just let me know you'd like to do it, that would be really important. So we don't, so otherwise both of us can't bill for that. Right? If you feel someone getting to territorial, you might be able to correct their behavior in that way.
I like that. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Olivia. I don't want to keep you. So for those of you who don't know, I should have said this at the beginning. I will put in the show notes so that you know we are filming this by video, so you can watch us over on YouTube if you prefer seeing faces and all of that. I'll put a link to the litigatorlaunchpad.com in the description. And where I started with that is what you don't know is Olivia was so kind to give up her Saturday morning. So we're actually recording this on a Saturday. So thank you so much, Olivia. They'll get so much value out of this.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. And just every time I think about working on a weekend, I just imagine one of my mentors who had a really cute pillow on her couch in her office that said, "God bless this hardworking attorney at law."
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.